happening, everyone? Today is Wednesday, Winning Wednesday. We're calling it Winning Wednesday because we never get down, even though our coins have not went extremely high yet. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going with. How's it going, everyone? Let me talk to the chat real quick. SJ Piers, what's happening? Did you say wind wrench? You just got it. You've been wrenched. Miss, you've been wrenched. Also, Red Squirrel got a wrench. I didn't even know he didn't have one. So welcome. Notes from materiality. PulseChain Bridge 0 days of false operation. That would be funny to have like on your wall. How many transactions have went through percentage wise? Yeah, I mean, it's totally fine to joke about that, but it really doesn't matter in any kind of other time frame other than today, tomorrow, all that stuff. Oh, I didn't even see this till now. You were wrenched at the same time. I was like, who needs a wrench that hasn't got one? You too. Nazim C15. I may wrench some other people as well. Godfather J6. What's happening? We got special guests who's joined us in the green room. I'll bring him in a minute because we got some turkey to talk about. Got to talk turkey. Maybe keep the wrenches for the bridge. Don't give them all away. We may need to do some maintenance and repairs and donate some wrenches to the dev, to the 9 poor bridge validators. Richard, it's a big bridge we just made. Sure is. Where was he? That would be a good meme. I like that. If you make that, tag me. That'd be pretty funny. I like that. The chat of Chads is here. What's happening, Chad? Good to chat it up with you. What else? If I hear the queue at the nightclub analogy in the stream, I don't know if that has to do with my intro or not. Everyone keeps saying the outro is really loud. That's like the first I've heard of it, first of all. I don't even think I could turn it up and down on StreamYard, and it's been like that for like 8 months now. So I don't know. Enjoy it, I guess. Enjoy it or time it where it's better. Riff Icarus, YouTube word, encourage people to join the PulseChain. Yeah, if you want to, feel free. I don't Reddit that much these days, but apparently it's growing. That's a great word of mouth. So yeah, feel free. Share the link here as well. Please share your live stream links group. Yeah, I mean, feel free to do that. I don't know. I added the Twitter live stream capability, and that was a whole other. Now I got to click like 5 more buttons every time I stream. So I'm kind of at my limit of the frictionless process of going live, especially when I'm going live, like doing 2 days for a while. Ben Dubard, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Ben was on here the other day chatting it up when the bridge was live. Seems like months ago. Gabriel, how's it going? Kobus, crypto style. That's what's happening. Yeah, so I mentioned we're going to do open mic the other day, but then PulseChain launched and bridge happened, and I postponed it. So crypto stylist, I have moved that to like the 29th or so, but I was going to get in touch and see if it works for you as well to come on. It's been a while. All right, I will get to the rest of the chat in a minute. Oh, Satoshi Nakamoto is here. Congratulations on your successful project, Satoshi Nakamoto. However, have you heard of HEX.com? It's a better Bitcoin, they're saying. They keep saying that. So anyways, appreciate that, Alex Santos. Just learn to watch. Yeah, it's there's a lot of content. There's like 1,500 videos, 1,500 videos on the channel. A lot of clips from a lot of stuff, so it should be good. Gold Key, what's happening, Gold Key? All right, I gotta actually bring the guest in, the catcher of dips, the Tento Nomini, the Italian twist that you never saw coming. He can't stop coding and making useful things for the community. Him and the Maximus DAOs, folks, Gold Key and everyone else. Welcome back to the show, Dip Catcher.
Back again.
What's back up, again. God.
Thanks for having me on.
We need to spend like 5 more minutes just going through how awesome your streams are. Like I feel like they're underrated. They're underrated. You got the Dip Catcher radio. You're shirtless sometimes. You're just got the glasses. It's amazing. Love your work, sir. Love your work online and on stream.
Back again.
Oh God, there it is. I remember that one. There's actually these
are usually the night. I feel like for a while my like whole sleep schedule is messed up because my light is just like so bright. It's just like this blaring.
I got the same one. I got the exact same one. I got it like pivoted to the left though, so it's almost not enough sometimes. And I got this whole new microphone deal it's kind of blocking it now. So yeah, I get you. The struggle is real, man. The struggle is real. Speaking of struggles, what's going to go on PulseChain, man? Like I hear a lot of people are saying that's just this wet noodle. Like what's happening right now, man?
I mean, I think just some growing pains, like kind of just the step from, like with HEX, like the scope of HEX is very limited, right? It's a fully contained smart contract where like that's the thing. Whereas with PulseChain and PulseX and Incentive, because it's a chain, it has all these other moving pieces that aren't just like simply contained in a static Solidity contract. And so it's, I think just kind of normal growing pains, right? Like, it's like these things are hard to produce. It's not trivial to build this type of stuff. And, it can be difficult to accurately replicate real world usage on testnets. And so, perhaps assumptions that they had made when setting up things like the bridge, or choosing what bridge infrastructure to fork or do whatever with, it can just be kind of challenging to get a fully accurate representation of what's going to happen on mainnet on testnet, right? Like there wasn't like aggressive bridging in of assets on testnet, and so I don't think they there was any way to kind of reach capacity. But it's just kind of the name of the game. Like broadcasting transactions on blockchains, like it's not a right. Like it's a privilege, and so I think it should kind of
pay for that privilege,
treated as such.
Yeah, to me, the whole thing, I've not had emotional response to anything that's happened throughout, anything that's being slower or you got to wait or whatever. It's the nature of the beast. Like all this stuff is normal. Like everything is working. There's some things that could be working faster. Or maybe we didn't test as much in testnet, so adjustments need to be made or scaling up or otherwise. But besides that, I mean, I think it's other than like I think the validator. The funny thing, the new supplemental we got, which was the burning of fees from the validators, right? Like maybe I'm wondering, like, what do you think about this too? I suspect maybe that was overlooked, where they're like, okay, but what about the bridge validators? Did they also need to burn their fees? But also, I don't know how the fees work with the bridging. I don't know why they need PLS to do the bridging either, because I'm not a bridge validator myself. So is that something that, I guess that's the only thing where I'm like, okay, I mean, it's hard to test that too, right? Like it's hard to even know that would even happen, but that's the only thing where, okay, if we knew that would happen, maybe that would have went smoother.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I haven't dug into the bridge, like, transaction trace exactly to see, what is it that causes or cause them to, not be able to, put forth the transactions exactly. But it might be something with like the bridge validators. Maybe there's some step in the process where that's outside the scope of like the actual blocks that they're composing. Cause like use it like, as the validator rotation goes through, it's like they're only, composing like however many, I don't know how many of the blocks they themselves are composing. And so, so in that case, perhaps the bridge validators have to pay gas on behalf of like, of the people who are transacting through the bridge. Or maybe it's like part of the minting. I just haven't looked enough into it. If it's like some type of like transaction relayer that like for the minting, like of the token on the other side of the bridge, or really like, like I'm not exactly sure. And I mean, it kind of makes sense that perhaps they might have underestimated the actual gas consumption, like with things like, like everyone got one PLS. Like if you sacked for PulseX, you got one PLS, and I think all the copies got one PLS, and the ETH, which going into it, maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention. I thought that it was going to be 10,000 PLS per ETH, and so that was my kind of working assumption, but it was like 1-to-1 with the ETH.
1-to-1. Yeah.
So
that way every wallet got it, but then the fees went up. Like I guess the idea was the transactions will be cheap, so or we suspect they will. So even if you have just a little bit of ETH, you should be able to do something. But then we see it's not the case anymore. 2,000 PLS currently, but how long it'll last?
Yeah. So yeah, I think probably just those things kind of compounding, where just which it's like it's kind of the name of the game, right? Like
yeah.
Have you ever made a mistake or like like underestimated something at work? Like, you've ever been at your job and, you know, you thought this was going to happen, and then so you did something.
I immediately start yelling at my boss. I immediately tell him that he messed up. Everyone's bad. The world is ending. People are losing money. Everyone's getting wrecked. That's how you're supposed to respond to someone underestimating things, right?
Yeah, maybe it's a blessing. Probably a lot of people would be getting wrecked if they could move their tokens. Like, it's kind of how people like the hex stakes, because they can protect them from themselves. The high fees are protecting people.
PulseChain, get wrecked slower. Yes, there's a lot of catchphrases going around. I'm sure that won't be a part of it. So it's so funny. Again, everyone. It's so. What would you tell before we get into? We got definitely some gas and bridge stuff, more stuff to talk about. But people who are just like frustrated and worried right now, and they keep talking about, I was promised low fees. This was supposed to happen. How do you even explain that? Like, that's not what we're here for. I don't know how many times I've had to say, like, I'm here for mad gains and cool tech and an awesome community. Low fees were, as you mentioned before, lowest common denominator, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of don't. I don't really have to explain, because I've been promoting the concept that high fees is good for a long time.
I'm with you.
Even my
I've been co-promoting that as well.
Back in 2021 were about, like, the real value here is in the alt layer one. Like, the low fees is like, that's not even like the goal. So at least the people that I've like onboarded that kind of ask me about these things, like, they never really had that in their mind that fees would be low. And I think, kind of with how, kind of like in defending the HEX stake pools, where, like, just, for all these months now, and everyone's like, oh, it's like PulseChain will solve this. I'm like, well, if PulseChain is a success, or if there's high demand for those blocks, you're going to want to save on gas there too. So, and it's just like, like, I think probably my favorite tweet that I've had that kind of sums it up is that if fees are too high, that means you don't want it bad enough. Like, someone else out there wants it more than you. Like, they want that block space. And like I said, that writing information to an immutable blockchain, that is not a right. That is a privilege. And so, I think, it's just like, like, there's more demand for the blocks than people thought. Like, that's a good thing, right? Like,
yeah, it is. It is all good. It's all the phrase I keep using is, do you want no one to use the network and be a ghost chain, or would you rather pay more for gas, but you get all the onboarding for all the projects that are using it? You get all the, if you're a validator, you're making fees. If you're LP, you're making, like, if you're participating in the system, you are benefiting from a lot of the volume and stuff. So if you're not, and you don't have much skin in the game, then maybe those people are just the loudest. I don't know.
Yeah, and they'd probably not be complaining if HEX price was higher and Pulse price was higher. So hopefully it's like a good chance for people to really, like, test their resolve and just kind of grow their mental strength as a result. Like, something happened that you didn't expect. Like, good thing it's something online, right? Like,
yeah,
a lot of things could go wrong in real life that are probably a lot worse than high fees on a new network.
I think was New Jersey closed the bridge or something like that. I think that's probably worse than having congestion on a crypto bridge, like not being able to get out of your city or having to, like, actually affect your real life. Probably worse. But anyways, speaking of these things, but Dipcatcher, what if people don't have PLS? How do they do that? What do they need to do? I hear you got a new project. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So, kind of this exact problem where, that, like, people only got one PLS for their copies. And so there's a whole cohort of users who missed the PLS sacrifice, which I think is actually more people than did the PLS. Like, there's more people that don't have enough PLS than do. So it kind of became clear that this was a problem about a day and a half ago, where so I think someone tweeted that people weren't going to be able to do anything with their coins, and bridging in doesn't solve, like, buying, because I saw that someone had bridged Pulse over to Ethereum, and then so I was like, okay, people just buy a wrap Pulse, then bridge it back, and then they'll just have their Pulse and they'll be able to do it. So I was like, okay, problem solved. But then I was kind of sleuthing around the transactions. The cost of buying the wrapped pulse and then bridging it was like $70 in gas, just like right off the bat on the ETH side. And then the bridge, huge backlog there. So, it's been now like numerous days where people haven't been able to get out of the bridge. And then it turns out that the wrapped pulse that you were to bridge over, you have to pay the gas to unwrap it. So if you have no native pulse to start, you just, you can't get it. And so there are a number of the, there are a handful of faucets, but that's, coming directly out of someone's pocket. So that's very generous of them. But, perhaps that runs out at some point, or if those, if some other use case that's like a high consumer of blocks starts really taking root on PulseChain, then maybe that nominal amount that they're sending over just isn't going to be enough for much. So the solution that I came up with was this concept of a cross-chain gas bridge, which is basically this dual contract system where there's an escrow contract deployed to Ethereum and an escrow contract deployed to PulseChain. And you can deposit ETH to the Ethereum escrow, and you can deposit Pulse to the Pulse escrow. And then after this, it was launched at about 4 a.m. last night. So, here it's about a 19-hour phase. So meant to capture a whole day for, people, at least people in the US, early morning East Coast, late night West Coast, capturing the whole scope. So, just the amount of ETH that goes in versus the amount of Pulse, that's going to be the redemption rate. And then all the users that deposited ETH can withdraw Pulse per that rate, and all the people that deposited Pulse can withdraw ETH per that rate. And so, the way that works on the back end is that to really reduce the gas fees, because the whole point of this is for people who are kind of priced out of gas. It wasn't built with the intention of like bridging in huge amounts of value in, but I can already tell that it's probably going to turn into that. But is really catered to the small, $30 of gas being able to bridge in. So the contract is highly optimized around just limiting the gas costs for the end user. Because that's really the problem that it's aiming to solve. And so the way that the accounting system works is it's all of the the contract records who deposited ETH and how much, and who deposited Pulse and how much. And then when that deposit deadline ticks over, no more deposits are allowed into the contract, so it's paused. And then the redemption rate is calculated, and then something called a Merkle tree, which is how the Bitcoin free claim worked. It's how the upcoming pool party contract is going to work. A Merkle tree is generated and then saved to each of the contracts. So the PulseChain contract will have a Merkle tree containing all of the ETH depositors, and then the ETH contract will have a Merkle tree that contains all of the Pulse depositors, and those Merkle trees have the address and the amount of the ETH or the amount of Pulse that can be redeemed. So it's the amount that they deposited times the redemption rate. So, and then what happens is that a redemption window opens, and then you can go and just claim your ETH or claim your Pulse. But since the whole point of this was for people that don't have any Pulse at all to pay for gas, that redeem function is actually public. And so anyone can run it on behalf of somebody else. It's called relaying the transaction. So anybody can relay that transaction, and the way that we're encouraging and incentivizing people to relay those PLS transactions is that if you relay a transaction on behalf of someone, then they're going to be included in the upcoming pool party airdrop. So, cool. all the airdrop snapshot has already been taken for all the Maximus DAO asset holders. We did that right before the PulseChain fork. But this will be another way to get some free pool party tokens, is if you pay a little bit of Pulse gas to relay a transaction on behalf of somebody who doesn't have any Pulse. And so when that relay function is run, the person who's pulse that belongs to. Now it'll just appear in their wallet. And so from a user's perspective, if you have ETH and you don't have any pulse, you deposit some ETH, and the gas fee for that is the smallest possible. It's just a normal deposit, normal transfer rather. So it's a normal transfer in, so very small gas, and then you don't have to do anything. And then if you wait some time, someone will relay your transaction, and then it just appears. So the gas cost for getting PLS on PulseChain is just going to be the basic Ethereum transfer cost. So
Okay.
it's a pretty good solution for for this. And yeah.
Well, I think what a lot of people are trying to do too, I know getting gas is one. I mean, can people use this to just get ETH, take ETH and get it into Pulse? Actually, so if they have a fiat on ramp for ETH, they take that, they get ETH, and then they could use the gas bridge to get PLS. So like basically putting more money in the system. Right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so what you can see there on there, it shows the ETH deposits, the Pulse deposits, and then those ratios. So the number that I'm really looking at is that depositor premium. So that is like the like how much like what that ratio is from a PLS depositor's perspective compared to simply selling the PLS for wrapped ETH on PulseX right now. So because it's just like the total amount of ETH divided by total amount of Pulse, and so the more ETH that goes in, the higher and higher that rate is, meaning the lower the less amount of Pulse that they get. So the higher that depositor premium is, the more attractive it is for someone with Pulse to come in and fill that order so that more people can get Pulse. So as the time ticks down, that's the big question, like what will come out to. It'll probably be, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I don't, because like I truly have no idea. Like it's entirely based on the activity of the users. Like, I'm like, there's no one's setting this price. I think people misunderstood that when they first saw this. They thought there was like some price set by someone, but no, it's just like the sum of everyone. And so that's been oscillating. Like people were quoting some massive premium, like right when it launched, saying it's a bad solution. It's like, okay, literally that's 20 more hours of for those to fill up. It got as low as like 0.15. So you can read that as 98% premium. So you'll like, if you have PLS, you'll get 98% more ETH by depositing PLS in there. But then each additional PLS deposit reduces that premium because now it's divided by a larger number. So,
and on that too, I just want to make sure it's clear that. So can you walk us through the process though? If you're using this, whenever, so when will people be able to claim and stuff? To like tomorrow?
In 11 hours.
11. Okay, so after 11 hours, stuff will happen, and you'll be able to. So if you deposit ETH here, for example, or deposit ETH. Let's go with that example. In 11 hours, you'll be able to on PulseChain, you'll be able to claim wrapped ETH. Is that correct?
It's not wrapped ETH. It's no, on PulseChain you're claiming Pulse.
Okay, right.
Native Pulse. Yeah. And then so it's ETH. And that's why it's called gas bridge, because like ETH is the gas token, Pulse is the gas token. And so you're bridging one gas token on ETH for the gas token on PulseChain.
So in 11 hours, you'll come back here and it'll be like claim if your wallet,
that redeem page, if you click redeem, I mean, nothing will show up now because there's nothing in there to redeem. But and you're not connected. So that's what things that are. The ETH will, or the redeem will be on, and then
and you click redeem, and then your wallet you pay a gas fee, and then your wallet will have PLS in it.
Yep.
Okay.
Or you can run it like there's going to be a whole list of buttons that say relay, and so what I think is probably going to happen is that there are people who are going to be trying to mine that airdrop, and they're just going to go through and just run them all. Last night when I was like deploying it, I needed some PLS to deploy it for the gas. And so I just tweeted, I was like, can someone send me some, I'll send you some ETH. And so a couple of people sent a very generous amount. And then I sent back the Pulse I didn't need to use. I was like, use this for the relay or put it in the pool. And then, so I kept some left over. And so, that's my plan is to help relay some of those PLS ones with just some Pulse that I have. But
so a couple uses it sounds like people could use this for. It is one to get gas. You're basically trading one gas token for another, and two is to get, if you have ETH, if you have fiat into ETH, and then you want to just put more economic energy into PLS. If you want more PLS, you can basically trade. It's essentially the end result is like you're trading ETH for PLS, right?
yeah, and probably a
End
third
result.
use case is if you have PLS and you want ETH in your Coinbase account, you can fill that order, help close that spread.
So you can essentially, you can exit if you want, for some reason, if you want to sell PLS right now, you can essentially trade it for that amount of ETH, and then you can exit for a fiat off ramp if you like. Cool. Third use case.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question that I think a lot of people are wondering too is, okay, is like how trustless or trustful or trustified is this? Like what risk is there you could define?
So the risks are kind of laid out right there. So the escrow agent is the thing that generates that Merkle tree, and so they could make a mistake. So hopefully they've practiced numerous times on how to generate that and have a good system down. And luckily, it's easy to check, right? Like it's reading directly from the on-chain events, and then you can check if it's right numerous ways. So that's what we ran through on testnet yesterday. Was just like the that building of that, and so that's probably the primary risk there. But it kind of works because that model probably wouldn't work if this was intended to be like a big value transfer bridge. This is really meant for gas. Like this is like the entire scope of this project was based around like the story in my head is like, okay, you're a user that needs $30 of gas on PulseChain. And if it's just $30, you can tolerate that type of risk. And so that's why this works. So if this was intended to be like a larger bridge, like with like the one, like the big bridge, that type of risk probably wouldn't be tolerable. And so that's probably the primary risk. But I mean, if by now, people probably think that anything or anyone I may appoint as the escrow agent would probably do the right thing. So that's one risk. Another risk is that redemption rate just may be like way off from what like you think the market rate should be. So like right now you'd be like, if you put in ETH, you're getting about half like as amount of Pulse if you had wrapped ETH and were buying Pulse on PulseX, but it's like you don't have that. And so maybe that like, that's kind of factored in there, but who knows what that number will be at the end. It truly comes down to ETH deposits versus Pulse deposits. So those are like probably the two main like performance risks there. And then the other risk that I put in there was that like if you have no Pulse and you need someone to relay your transaction, there's always a chance that no one does, or you may have to wait some time. So we try to mitigate that risk by including the pool party airdrop incentive. So those are the main risks. And so luckily with this, one second.
Sure. So you all heard the risk. Make sure you're comfortable with those before you participate.
Yeah. So with this, like there are a couple of things that kind of help increase the risk tolerance for the system. One is that it's kind of a desperate problem people are having. Like they're resorting to doing like OTC deals way out of the money, trusting that the person that you're sending it to is going to send you the money back. Which, I mean, I don't know if anyone's had any issues with that, because I mean, people in the community are generally pretty, good. So it's got, so like the escrow agent isn't really like if you were someone that was already going to do that, this concept of the escrow agent, it's not really introducing any new risk. So it's kind of similar risk to the other one. It's just more effective where, rather than people get, some people getting really ripped off, some people getting okay deals, it's like everyone's going to get a fair deal. Because like whatever's fair is whatever the market puts forth in this, and it'll converge to some value, and that's just what the value is. And so, each of these risks is really, there's kind of like deliberate mitigation of those risks, and because it's kind of it's time sensitive too, like there, and the existing solutions are worse, there is some flexibility that allows, those to kind of be there. But for other use cases, that model may kind of break down.
Right. Yeah, it's important for people to know, the risks and the trustlessness of stuff as well. Another question came to mind is there any limits? Like, can somebody put in 1 million ETH? Can somebody put in 10 billion PLS?
So no limits on the top side. There's a limit of 0.005 ETH. So what is that, like $8 or so? $6,
like that. Yeah,
$9 about.
Okay.
And that was just so, like, that's kind of it. Just you're not going to get a very good rate, with the gas on that. So just to kind of help people's, like, the average, like, users' performance be better.
And is there a deadline when to claim? Like, can people claim days from now?
Yeah, no deadline. So this is like this is kind of like Maxi. It's like there's a one-time start, and then you can claim forever. And so, and that was just because like, really, like, this was a very time-sensitive thing to do, because of just, like, the bridge problems, the existing ways that people are kind of getting around this, and we'll see how it unfolds, and what other, like, if kind of more permanent solutions to this concept are built by, like, the bridge team. And perhaps at some point, maybe we might keep leaning into this or have some new version of this. But it is a pretty very, very simple contract and very simple system. But maybe there's ways to make it like an ongoing thing, or make it have different incentives and stuff. But
so people can sort of think of this as, the Pulse ramp, Pulse bridge is like the big ramp, the big bridge everyone's using right now. It's congested, all this stuff, and you're like, okay, we can build another little bridge here that has a different risk tolerance, has different way it works. It's like a one-time deal to help with gas or help with getting economic energy otherwise, and you can use that if you are okay with doing it, timeline, risk, all that stuff. Is that kind of the framing for this?
Yeah.
Awesome. One more question. When are you going to make a bad product?
I mean, people said Maxi was bad. People said Team was bad. People said Base. No one really said Base was bad.
No one said Base was bad.
Said Lucky was bad. People said Poly was bad, but it's actually the best one. No one really said Water is bad. Everyone loves DCA. No one really said DCA is bad.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. There's this famous line from this basketball movie. I forgot what it was. Maybe it's called, like, oh man, if I think long enough, I'll think of the title. But he's like, these two guys playing each other, and one guy wins, and the other guy's like, "Hey, good game." He's like really good sportsmanship. All this would be like, "Good game," and he's like, "Let me know when I have a bad one." And I always reframe that in different ways. So I love getting it in. It's like, when you can make a bad product, Tip Catcher, you and Gold Key, just crushing it, man, crushing it. All right, everyone. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions on that in the chat. I think just a lot of good comments. I think the more people understand it and understand, how it's different than other things, how they can use it, I think more people, buy into it if they want to. If they don't, you totally don't have to use it. If you're cool waiting or using another bridge, you do not have to use this at all. It is not official PulseChain project. Richard didn't make it. If you're going to stick with that stuff, that's totally fine, acceptable. Community is building stuff to solve problems, and this is one way to do it if you're okay with how it works. So let's talk about PulseChain. What has been, and also INC token. It was like $17 yesterday. Like, what is? I remember watching the K4A video. He's like, yeah, maybe $1 or $2, something like that. And I was like, okay, that sounds reasonable. And then yesterday I was looking at the chart, and I'm like, how is it? Especially if you've been providing LP, you're like, what is going on right now? Like, a lot of people made a lot of money in the last few days just coming in here. So maybe INC. What do you think about INC? Is there something people are missing on it? Is it not the Dump Forever token anymore? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like that same phenomena where, like, because no one was thinking that it was going to be the one, it was the one. And maybe just like that, like, because that maybe when the bridge opens up, that may change. Because if it's like an income token, then people may start using it as income. And right now it's like the bridge is closed. And if you have the INC token, you probably already have a bunch of Pulse or PulseX or anything else. And so like converting your ink into like an incremental amount of Pulse, like maybe it's not moving the needle much for you. And so those people are just hoarding it or like harvesting it or whatever. So that's probably one dynamic there. Another one is that there wasn't a big sacrifice. And so like there wasn't like already like a massive cohort of users who have a bunch that think they're going to get rich. And so I think that's probably gives it a little bit more room to the upside. Well, now it's $4, so I don't know.
Dude, I know it was. I think I saw it set.
Why'd you
yesterday.
nuke the price? Were you dumping your?
Hey. No, it was. I saw it last night. It was like 17, and then I saw it went down to 14, and then it was at $7 at some point, and then it was like way up there. Whoa, that's crazy. And then now it's $4 or $5, but still wildly overperforming. Is it like it's like I don't know the Watsa, but it has charts. It's kind of the stuff no one's been paying attention to. It's super interesting to me. I like how you say income token, like INC. It could be income actually.
Yeah, I didn't. I put that together as I said. I was like, but yeah, dude, it's
Inkians. What do you think people should be called? Inkians, Inkanites?
Well, the thing that I kind of relate it to, like, way back in the day, there was this thing called Ample, and Ample had this geyser where if you provided liquidity in the geyser, you would earn more Ample. But then like you ended up losing money. Like the Ample position was not so good, depending on when you timed it, but just like it kind of gets squeezed out. And then the liquidity position was not so good. But then the uni airdrop for just having provided liquidity in that system was like massive. And so it's like, wow, you never know. It's like, so even things that may have like, dynamics, like these things, like where it's basically like subsidizing the yield, right? It's like you're earning the fees but just to like encourage more liquidity in a scenario where the liquidity provision may not be entirely profitable or is like max profitable as just like holding one or the other. It's kind of like a way to subsidize that yield for the liquidity providers. And so sometimes that it kind of works in both ways where like people use that as income and it's kind of like a net outflow, but who knows like what thing may just suddenly appear to. And so I think that like, there's, even if things, maybe you're doing something and you're doing it at a loss, it's like in crypto, there's always a chance for something to happen and for it to kind of turn around.
Dude, opportunity mindset has been something that I've been seeing a lot of people just is, like you said, I know HEX price is down, I know PLS, all this stuff. I mean, even on, PHEX was like it may still be under a penny. Actually, let me check that. That was crazy. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, if this is correct, I know we're all low liquidity. You can't trust the prices a lot right now, but wow. How do you explain this? Like, how do you rationalize what has happened in the last few days?
I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Like the low liquidity works in both ways. And also like no new inflows being able, like $30 million of inflows being locked up. And who knows where that gets distributed? It'll be distributed all around. And then some amount is there's going to be net outflows from that as well. So like, and it's so, and I think that probably like the gas impact probably caused a lot of people to be selling like their copies for Pulse. And so that might account for some of the PHEX going down. And also, I mean, it's like, it's factoring in the risk, it's like EHEX runs on Ethereum, which has had, how many years of effectively flawless operation. Even the things that went wrong, it's not like anything has been a critical issue. The only problem with ETH is that it's so popular and so valuable that it can price out small users, but that's not really a problem. It's like more of like an outcome, I guess. And so, EHEX running on PulseChain or on Ethereum, it's like there's, I guess, less systemic risk there. So maybe some of the risk between the copy versus the native one, maybe that's kind of priced in there. And just all the other, like on Ethereum, there's HEX, and then there's Ethereum. Whereas on PulseChain, there's EHEX, there's INC, there's PLSX, there's PLS. So probably like amongst this cohort of users, there's a lot more competition for what you could sell your HEX for. Whereas on Ethereum, like, what are you going to sell your HEX for? I mean, the main thing people sell their HEX for on USDC is, or on Ethereum is USDC. So, so that's kind of going on there. I think people are probably feeling stress is amplified because, like, everyone's like, oh, when the copy happens, everything's going to pump and it's going to be 1-to-1. And it's like, copy happened, instant markdown, and like double whammy markdown with the copy. So now it's like the effective HEX price is what, like 3 point something. And that's like near the bear market lows. So I think people are feeling, kind of bad about that. But I mean, that's markets, that's like what it's like, when I think that's where I think a lot of people might have got it wrong when they thought that like PulseChain was going to come and save HEX staking. It kind of amplified the problem because not that it was PulseChain that did this, but like the main driver in the feasibility of ending stakes with gas is the HEX price. And so, PulseChain kind of splitting that value across two different chains, and then also have one of which, I mean, as of now, it'll change over time, but like the liquidity on PulseChain is just quite low. It's kind of like it like double whammied the HEX, like it made more HEX stakes unfeasible to end right now. So I think people are probably kind of feeling a little sad about that. But I mean, that's the name of the game. Like gains, come with losses. Like you can't have gains without also having the chance for loss. And things
volatility is the price you pay for
aren't always going to work out how you want.
Do you think we're going to look at this HEX chart and just like hysterically laugh in the next 6 months, 1 year? Like looking at it, it feels like I'm in 2020 right now. Like looking at, this, any kind of HEX chart, it just seems like, not financial advice, everyone, of course, but like I look at this chart and think the market's mispricing it when I see this myself. What do you think in the 6 months to a year, we're going to, maybe weeks, I don't know, but like, can you see us looking back at this and be like, oh, remember when HEX was at 006 again? Like, remember when PX was 006? Like, how do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like there's probably what's happening is like it's like a more momentary dynamic, like combination of like effectively a doubling of the HEX supply. Not really because they're independent, but like from a user's perspective, it kind of doubled, combined with now suddenly there's a bunch of other assets that people in the same user base now may also be demanding. It kind of makes sense that like initially it'll be low, and then and also, I mean, the thing with like people selling their HEX for their PX for Pulse for gas, that's another potentially short-term dynamic there. People wanting to get into the assets that you can mine the INC token with, because that had been going up. Those things, just as like kind of the dust settles, it kind of makes sense. I mean, the main thing is just like the inflows, and it's like right now there's kind of a blocker in those inflows. And I think as that gets resolved, this may continue to go up. But also, I mean, like price can always go down. There's always it's like every day the people that had EHEX stakes ending, big ones from December of 2019, now they have two, and their EHEX is lower in price. And so like now that you may see a lot of active selling, because like maybe a lot of people don't really have like much emotional attachment to their PHEX. Like I don't think the PHEX is really like fully kind of latched onto me just yet in the same way. Like when I think of HEX still, I mean, I still think of EHEX. The PHEX, it's like it's there, it's a nice bonus, but because I'm mainly staked, so I'm not really thinking about the short-term price of the EHEX, and also the like once the liquidity and like the prices are like reliable, I guess, it might kind of take up more of that brain power. But yeah, probably over time, who knows what the price will be. I mean, I'm looking at like, so 0.06 hex, the price at, that was like peak euphoria in July of 2020 before a sell down to $0.002. Like, and it happened like twice. Like it bounced off that level. I mean, I know they're entirely different assets. You can't like analyze it in the same way, but like that level was like when Godwale put the bid on and Hex pumped from the generational lows, it bounced off of $0.006.
Wow. It is, just on the whole, like, not ability to, it just seems like the whole ecosystem right now where we just launched, and of course, like there's multiple reasons for this bridge and all that stuff. There's just not a lot of flexibility to make a lot of moves. And it's not like you can just work it like it is on Ethereum. So it seems like everyone just wants PLS and PLSX because maybe they see that as the 10,000X even, and they see Hex. Oh, Hex is maybe another 100, 200X. That, maybe that's what they think. And is that a reason too? But like, how do you even? So if you can't get money through the bridge, that's why everything's kind of like stuck right now. And then is that one reason maybe why the prices are down too? What, nobody can really be effective trading right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's like whatever value is in there, and like if it's just kind of reshuffling from one to the other, it kind of decays. As it just gets spread over more and more assets, and so the bridge, once like the funds get in there, then it comes down to where those funds go and how much is waiting to get out. So, say there's $30 million there, and say 6 million, so 20% tries to get out, so like the net amount is like 24 million. I mean, that can move a lot, but now it's like spread out over a bunch of assets, and also it's spread out amongst a very like tense and potentially like financially struggling user base, because like everyone who sacrificed is, there hasn't been like a massive markup on the Pulse or PulseX from sacrifices. Hex is down. So, I mean, the people that got into Hex early, they're fine, but the people that got into Hex around the sacrifices are down. And so that user may be more sensitive to any type of little pump to sell into, because maybe they can't afford to wait it out, or, and like, the starting point is a lot different from Hex. Like with Hex, like I looked back, I was reading through all of Richard's tweets from the launch, when his tweet that announced the Hex launch had 3 retweets and 5 likes.
I saw that.
So like, it's kind of, of course that thing can go up 10,000x when like an Ethereum billionaire Genesis block whale just puts the bid on. And so that makes sense. But with the, like now it's like, we're starting with like a larger base, which on one hand, it's more people that can be promoting, but on the other hand, it's just a lot more weight to pull up. Like there wasn't much weight to pull Hex up from the start because everyone FOMO'd in. Then those people staked. There wasn't a lot for sale. And then you can't really predict that like a billionaire just apes the price. And, so there's some kind of unique dynamics there. But I mean, the sheer amount of people that know about it, maybe that means that, 5 billionaires ape into PulseChain.
Right.
So
when do you think Godwell is going to start? Is he just going to wake up one day, like, oh yeah, the PulseChain launched, cool. Okay, let's see. Oh man, I don't like that price. Let me start making some moves. Like when do you think he's going to become active again?
I don't know. I mean, based on their previous history, it doesn't seem like they're too sensitive to low liquidity. So like because when you're that rich, you just don't give a shit. Like, he's not really going like incremental gains for that category of person when like they've already cashed out hundreds of millions of dollars from their ETH. Their ETH is just up massively. Their HEX is up even more. The Hedron they got is up even more. The yield they get staking their Hedron is like, it's just, they have so much. And like, at that point, you don't really care if you're experiencing a lot of slippage because like, you know, any amount of slippage you're experiencing is really like amplifying your paper gains. So like, what do you care? It's all, you know, it's all funny money to you at that point. So, you know, probably they're more sensitive to like the security and just like once they're really certain that that like everything with the bridge and everything is gravy, then that's probably when they'll make moves. Whereas like with, you know, with HEX, I mean, who knows when they learned about HEX, but they aped the price in like April. So that was about 5 months in. And so who knows? They're probably in no rush. And I mean, I'm not really in any rush either. It's like you're kind of more likely to get wrecked in the first couple moments than not. So,
well, what can we do right now? Like, it's, you know, there's LP. You know, a lot of projects haven't launched yet. You can be a validator. What can you do for, you know, yield and otherwise, like right now, while we're waiting on bridge and all this stuff? Is there, I mean, ways to like, what can people do right now? Not what should they do, but like, what can you do right now?
So I mean, the holding the pool tokens, that's like a way to get kind of like virtual like passive yield because you know those are still earning at a high rate and they're at, you know, low prices. You know, I haven't looked at not all of them have like active pools where it even like makes sense to buy yet, but I saw that Maxi was below the like 1-to-1 mint rate. So you know that's kind of like another mechanism for the, you know, for getting yield. You know, kind of all the other, you know, the validation. If you want, you know, if you want a new IT job, you can do that. And yeah, so I mean, you know, and then if you have a lot of the coins that are incentivized with the ink token, that's one way to do it. But also, I mean, for most users, you really don't need the nickel and dime for like incremental, like small amounts of yield. Like just holding the assets you think are going to go up a lot is fine. Like that's like, so even just sitting on your hands is probably like just as good of a strategy. Cause like if price goes up, you know, 100x and you gained a little bit, it's like, you know, what's really the difference between 99x versus 100x? I mean, it's 100% from your entry, but at that point, it kind of all blurs together. So,
yeah, I'm just looking at some of the liquidity here too, and looking around transactions, just trying to see what's popular too, and the Peacock. So, is there anything different with the Maximus token other than Pull? Pull Party is launching on both because you did the snapshot. Is that right?
mm-hmm.
So
yeah, so that's getting pretty close. If I wasn't so distracted by this PulseChain stuff, it'd probably be out now. But
we understand.
But yeah, so Pool Party will be coming out pretty soon. The snapshot's been done. The contract has been pretty highly optimized. Like I've almost rewritten large parts of it just to, you know, really optimizing on gas, a lot of new testing techniques, and just, you know, make sure that that's all ready to go. And then kind of letting things cool off from, you know, because a lot of activities here. And so, and in general, like, I mean, just looking back at like Maxi launched when the HEX price was like 12 to 16 cents. The pools launched when the HEX price was like 4 cents. And so lower price of HEX is kind of better for pool launches because it's easier to buy. You can get more of it. And just the price charts kind of look a little more favorable. You know, it's like I want to get Pool Party, but it's not like I've been in like a frantic like urgent rush, I guess. Because I kind of knew that, like, especially on the Pulse side, that that PHEX instantly available to everybody, probably gonna settle out pretty low, and it'd be better if that happened before, like, all the pooling than after.
Well, speaking of pools and farms too, just looking at, had some more. Richard tweeted some of the farms launched today as well, more than just PLS and WPLS. Got stuff. Apparently they're trying to attract people to bridge stuff over here, even though the bridge is, a little hard to use right now. However, gasbridge.anvil.app. Rewind to the beginning if you want to hear more about that. But what does it? So earn incentive token. Looks like the APR is crazy right now because it's not nowhere near the participation as there has been the last few days in this one. What do you think about the farms? Do you think it's worth participating here with, if you can get your funds over? Like how do you feel about them?
I mean, if you have enough to kind of make a dent, and like the APR, it's because that's annualized. So divide that by 365, and that's like today's yield. And so, if you have those assets, then, and you can get them over there, then, then that's a good deal. But also because these are V2 pools, you have to, so in that case, so DAI from Ethereum and Wrapped Pulse, if you're supplying in that one and the Pulse price either pumps or nukes, you end up with a whole bunch of the thing that didn't pump. And so that, hopefully that means you got a lot of ink, and hopefully that means that you got a lot of, ink from the trading volume, and hopefully the ink stays up. But if, like, you're getting a lot of the ink, so is everybody else. And so, like in those types of pools, you hope that price stays kind of bound to a range and the volumes are high, and then not too many other people are also providing liquidity. That's like the peak earnings scenario. But maybe, let's see, the HEX from Ethereum and Wrapped Pulse, maybe that one would be a good one, because like maybe those two kind of grow together. But I don't know. I mean, that could be the opposite. Like, what if HEX underperforms USDC and Wrapped Pulse overperforms USDC? Then in that case, that spread is a lot higher, and that impermanent loss may be a lot higher there. And so maybe probably, I don't know. I like the Wrapped ETH versus Wrapped Pulse one because, like, I think that those will probably both go up together. Maybe Pulse has some more upside just because it's higher risk, so higher reward capacity. But it's kind of also tapered by just this sheer amount of people that sacrifice for it. Because like that's like a bit, however many hundreds of millions of dollars that went into it, that is hundreds of millions, not including the like OA and like OA related HEX stuff. That's like hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not on the bid. Like that's not bidding the price up. That's kind of like pre-allocated supply. So that's probably the only thing mainly tapering the PLS is that. So, but I mean, growth counters that, new people and new use cases that, consume PLS or require you to have it. That's kind of the counter to that. And time too, it's just like as the supply gets recirculated and as people lock it up as validators, people locking it up in these non-USDC pools, even though all the pools, I mean, the routing kind of blends them all together. But so there are some things that can absorb that PLS supply, and the burning can make a big difference too. Like, as much as people hate the things that just burn excess gas, like, that's one. I mean, one, it's totally valid use. Like the blocks don't censor speech. Like, if you put forth, I mean, validators actually can't. Like, a validator could, like, if someone wanted to write a script that censored transactions from the blocks that they're putting forth, then you know, you could censor it, but then it's really just like opportunity costs that you're bearing, and that's why you probably don't see a lot of it.
That's the only thing I don't like about the graffiti with the validators, and I don't know if it's any graffiti, or maybe I don't know if I plan to do it or not, but anyways, I just hope it's not full of like a bunch of political speech and like all that stuff. But it totally can be, and it's your right. Run a validator, you do blocks and stuff. You can write whatever you want, but I'm not looking forward to that if that becomes a thing in the future. I wanted to ask on the liquidity though, what happens if all these new pools, they got around 1 million, couple around 1 million, 250K, all that. What happens if they get to close to where the PLSX and WPLS is? They get close to 10, 20 million. Like what effect will it have on the system?
Wait, sorry, I didn't hear. What happens when
the liquidity goes way up? It gets closer to like 20 million instead of 1 million, 500,000, stuff like that on these new pools.
So I guess it matters like where the liquidity because there's two ways that liquidity enters these pools. It's either with liquidity providers who are putting in some of both, and then also there's just people that are either buying or selling one of the assets. So like buying with like new cash coming in, it's like you're putting in some of one of the thing and you're taking out some of the other. And so like there's kind of two ways, and it's like the same but the opposite for someone selling. So like those are the way that like liquidity enters. So it really just comes down to like what that balance is, and that balance just gets reflected in the price. So more liquidity probably makes less volatility. Makes like, say you sell $100,000 worth. There's a very thick liquidity, especially in these symmetrical pools. It has less of an impact. But also more liquidity means that, it just requires more money to push the prices up. So kind of the rule of thumb is that I remember this from like DeFi summer 2020 when it was just absurd. That was like when there were V1 pools, like it's basically the liquidity providers giving their money away to the apes. But because like the rule of thumb just on that constant, it's called the constant product formula, just like with how the liquidity pool, like how it changes like from buys and sells in liquidity in those like symmetrical liquidity pools, how that impacts the price that's quoted. So like if you like say you had coin A and coin B, if you doubled like with a buy order, if you doubled the amount of coin A that was going in, then the price of coin B, it is squared. So like you double it, and that means that you like square
the price.
Square the or no, so you double it and it 4x the price. So it's like 2 to the power of however much you doubled. So like you 3x the amount in liquidity pool, it's 9x the price. Like that's why the prices really ran in that way, because like when one buyer, say there's $100,000 of USDC and then $100,000 of HEX, someone comes in with $200,000 of USDC into that pool, they buy it up. Because the liquidity pool tripled in price, or tripled in on the buy side, and then the HEX side dwindled by a similar rate, that's why it has that like 2 to the X performance. And so like that's like what really caused like the HEX price to really run in those early days. And when the V2 pools came out, and even when the V3 pools came out, like let's see when the V3 pools came out. V3 Uniswap launch date March of 2021. So like right before kind of the big blow off, but the concentrated liquidity, like being able to, as a liquidity provider, to be able to set where you're buying and selling instead of buying and selling at all prices. You could say that perhaps contributed to some of like, just like the tapering off of the, because like the bull market, for Hexkins, the bull market ended in like, peaked in like September. So that's like what, like 6 months after the V3 pools happened. But for like other markets, like what was the Ethereum? Like when did Ethereum peak? like November. Okay, that's like November of 2021. And so like, the V3 pools, like they kind of put an end to like this heyday of these symmetrical pools, which maybe will be kind of introduced here. But I could see over time that PulseX introducing V3 pools for sure.
Yeah, I think the working theory is like V2 is good for the newer network for volatility and for other fundamentals. And then later on, I could totally see Richard selling, hey, everyone, PulseX is getting an upgrade, V3, and then launches that. Like it makes sense because the things will be more stable and better for the longevity, I guess, of the network and trading and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I answered this question. 2 more weeks says, if you can't cash out and the value drops 90 cents, you, sir, have been rugged. Well, I think you have a shorter time horizon than a lot of people who would not agree with that. Your response, tip catcher.
I mean, 90% from where? Like,
0 from 0,
is that,
right?
Like, I don't know. I categorize rug as like kind of like blatantly misleading, or like, it's like kind of if like true abandonment from, whomever, or like the largest holder dumping everything and simultaneously pulling all their buy side liquidity. Like that's like a rug. Like price going down, that's just markets. But
I can't sell. I need to sell ASAP. You're rugging me if I can't sell.
Well, is it not being able to sell because you don't have the gas to pay for it, or is it not being able to sell because
there's layers of this rug? You just brought another layer up. Oh my god, so bad, man, so bad.
It's kind of like a reverse rug.
What would a magic carpet ride be if there's the opposite, there's a reverse, there's an inverse rug? What's an inverse rug? A meta rug, or a meta gur? Can we just say gur instead of rug? GUR.
Like a rug push, maybe. I don't know.
A rug push.
What's that thing where like the blob? Those like blobs at summer camp, where like you're on one side and someone jumps on it.
Oh yeah, I like that. Oh god, that's good. That's good. By the way, 2 more weeks. I do like your emoji though. That pizza on fire is pretty cool. So kudos on that. Yeah, people have been asking about this. AMM bot is already run. So has it ran? Is it still running? What I know you had some data on this on Twitter. Refresh us on that.
I think it ran. Let me look up. Let me see what the AMM address is. Let me find it and then we'll look it up. AMM.
Richard tweeted, "Stop using the bridge." That's funny.
Right now?
4 hours ago, but now he's posting a thing about Redis and how maybe they have problems with Redis. That's funny.
I wonder what he thinks, or if he knows about the gas bridge.
I don't know. You can drop it. Slide into his comments here. Slide into his comments.
I try not to do that just because like I get it. Like I don't want people in my comments with bullshit, and from his perspective, probably everything's bullshit.
Does he follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, he follows me.
Me too. So I was, every time I want to make a joke, I'm like, is this like, I'm always like a little bit careful. I'm like, is he going to get it? If he actually reads it, will he actually get it? And then I made one. I was like, he announced Otter, and I replied with win Otter coin, sir. And I had to double take on that so many times. I was like, oh shit, should I do it? I'm a little afraid. But apparently he'd probably never seen it anyways. But
why Otter?
Otter, why he Otter unfollow you?
Okay, so it looks like the last AMM bot activity was, let's see. Oh wait, am I on the right one? Let's see. AMM bot address 0x37. If we look at Otter, it looks like 4 days ago it had, let's see. What did it do 4 days ago? Let's see how I can make sense of this. AMM bot transferred wrapped ether to some contract that must be like a router or something. some type of router. ETH Moon. So the end result was ETH Moon to Uni V2, Uni V2 to the 7A2, 7A2 to the ECD. I don't know. So it looks like it was operating as of May 12th.
May 12th. Yeah, Gold Key Tech already ran as of May. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, as of launch, yeah, that was what it's supposed to do, right? Run, buy public liquidity. Did anybody get any deals? Did we ever hear anything on that? That was the question. Hey, is anyone gonna, get deals on stuff the AMM bot didn't fix up?
I don't know. So I imagine there's contracts that things that you mint with ETH, and if the ETH was hard coded into the contract because of the supply scaling, you could, because now one pulse is the same as one ETH from the contract perspective. So with basically no money, you could come and do something. So there's probably stuff like that. But I haven't been nickel and diming on. There were some things that I was looking at, but it wasn't going to play out how with some of these Wi-Fi pool things, these curve thing. I was kind of looking at that, but it wasn't as trivial as I just kind of haven't put that much effort.
Yeah, you gotta choose where to spend your time. I mean, you've been busy now with the gas bridge, but still got party and then pay attention to PulseChain.
Another address that I was wondering about was the comprehensive accounting address. Do you know what that is?
No, what is that?
So, in that same tweet, when I was these are some of the last changes before PulseChain went live. It's when they set what the AMM bot address was. Then there's a no expectations address, and then the comprehensive accounting address. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't really dig into the code to figure out what it was, but it looks like it has transfers out in amounts of 2 million pulse, 10 million pulse, 1 million, 20 million, 1 million, 90 million to as of 1 day ago. So this doesn't appear to be a contract. It appears to be a actual address, and it appears to have just been sending out PLS in 10 million PLS. Well, it sent it to another address, and then that address sent it in 10 million PLS blocks. I have no idea what these are. It looks like some of these addresses are pretty active.
Do you want to share your screen, or do you?
Yeah, sure.
Not sensitive. I'm just curious. That's super interesting. Always good to see new entities in the ecosystem.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So these are the changes where these final addresses. So here's where I got the AMM bot. And then I was wondering what this constant or the comprehensive accounting address was. So let's take a look at the Otter, because it seems to be the most up-to-date explorer. So the comprehensive accounting address, which I have no idea what it is, it only has outbound transactions. So that means that it must have got its PLS. Well, I don't know how long back this dates, and I don't think when I looked at Etherscan, I didn't see any transactions on this address in Etherscan. So it must not have had anything pre-fork. So maybe and I think that the Otter Explorer probably indexes all the way back, but yeah. So this is there must have been some type of supply issuance during the launch or something, but it looks like all their activity has been just sending out Pulse to a handful of these addresses. Largest one being 90 million PLS. So let's just follow that. And then that person, they got this and they split it up amongst all these other addresses. Not really sure what these are. These look pretty active. So I have no idea what these are.
It doesn't have anything to do with the bridge validators, does it?
It might. Like it very well could. See if we can. I don't know how to even poke through. Yeah, so it's. Yeah, I mean, this is like deep in the weeds stuff. So I don't even really know. So who knows what these are? It doesn't. It's not immediately clear. It looks like these are pretty active, and they process a lot of transactions through this a lot, and doesn't appear that any of their like whatever contract or whatever thing they're using doesn't appear to be doing anything like through any readable like verified contracts on the Explorer. So I have no idea what these are.
And the address came from which contract?
That comprehensive accounting.
Yeah, but there's the address came from which contract though? On like on PulseX or PulseChain?
So it came from the GitLab. So like, if we look up GitLab, PulseChain, mainnet, see if we can find it. So what was the name of that file? Like something. Oh, wait, that's not it.
I didn't see it.
Commits maybe. Branches maybe. Master branch. Maybe I'm not even the right one. PulseChain. Yeah, it's not. That's just the I think it was in like merge requests. Nope. Maybe that is in. Oh yeah, I was in this compressed allocations thing.
Merge.ts or main.
Yeah, so this is where comprehensive. So comprehensive accounting. Let's see how it's used. Update this one. Okay, so if the address is zero address is comprehensive accounting. So credits, open audit, address audits. I don't know. I mean, it might have been something with like, I have no clue. Let's see if we can find comprehensive. Yeah, so I don't know. It might have been just something with like getting the sacrifice credits or something, but I have no idea what it is. So,
yeah, I mean, just thinking, okay, why would 10 million pulse go out to people? That sounds like, maybe if they were hacked or something, or crediting this like static sacrifice value for coins that could be sold during sacrifice. That's like in the ballpark, maybe.
Yeah, so I have no idea.
Cool. No, it's good to see it though. I mean, good to be like new thing that you learn reading code that is active on the network. So that's always fun. What else is going on, man? Before we wrap up, what are you looking forward to, and what are you having a good time with? What is maybe that's good. What has surprised you that's been so good about launch? People are so negative about it. What has been good?
So I'm really happy with Deck Screener adding support instantly and just being very on it. So that's awesome. It's probably good that like there's some kind of pain and grumblings going on. It's like like what are gains without pain? So I think that pain is probably good. And it's just like more excitement, new dynamics, and just like new opportunities. So, and I mean, all things considered, like, the bridge, that whole issue kind of sucks, but who really cares? It's just exciting that it launched. It very well could have not ever launched.
Yeah,
like
we went from the euphoria for a couple of days to things are slow, promise low fees, and yeah, everyone forgot. Like, hey, people were saying this thing's never going to launch. It's a failed project. The narrative's gone because ETH 2.0 already launched. There was so much FUD out there about this happening. I remember doing Richard Hart AMAs in January and February of like, you bring your FUD here to die. Bring your FUD here to die. I will tell you what this guy's about. Don't worry about launching and stuff. It'll happen eventually. And then lo and behold, we got mid-May. Mid-May was the play somehow.
Yeah, we hit our target launch day, no delays.
Exactly. It's a delay. What are you guys talking about delays? We hit it. Answer one question before we go. Crypto Down Under, if we bridge in HEX has half the value to bridge back, you must use WPLS and take. This question's hard to parse. 50% loss just bridge back. Where does the value go?
It means the value was never there. That's what it means. Like the price you see is just like the momentary market price applied to all coins, but then the actual value that you have must factor in like any fees related or any slippage or any like everything from like the value you see there when it's sitting in your wallet to the value that you realize. Like, it's not like that value is like, I mean, if you're bridging back, you have to use the wrap pulse. So like, it's kind of like it was never there, or just like the act of going in. It's not like someone else just like attained that value. It's like, like if that's the way you're realizing the value is by first bridging it into EHEX, bridging in EHEX, and then there's just not being demand there for that bridged in EHEX, and then you have to use the wrap pulse to sell, and like there's low liquidity on that wrap pulse EHEX pair and then you try to bridge back for some reason. It's like, it's it's kind of lost into the ether, or the way I see it is it was never there. Like depends on how you realize the gain. Like if you have your EHEX and you bridge it in to somehow extract value from it, like you're gonna kind of chop yourself up rather than just realizing the value to where like the instant, like where it's more instantly liquid.
I just remembered right before we go to be extremely careful on stable coins and stuff on PulseChain. How many PSAs people got to hear? They still seem to be doing trading the wrong ones. However, there's a lot of tricky stuff out there too. So let's see. I thought Richard tweeted the ones from the bridge that are looking more official. That's one thing I wish we did. I saw people saying too, I wish there was some kind of warning either on the Block Explorer or otherwise, like which ones are actually the correct ones bridged in, because apparently you can't even trust if it says from Ethereum. You may not even be able to trust it. So,
yeah, I maybe I don't know if on PulseX it should have that or something. But I mean, there's slippage warnings, but is that even slippage? If it's just like, you may be experiencing low slippage, and I think people that had those copied of the assets were like kind of knowing that people were gonna mess up, and so they put up a bunch of liquidity so it looks liquid in USDC, and so someone trades their worthless USDC for like massively discounted PLS. Pretty savvy.
Yeah, be careful out there, everyone, on that. And yeah, if you want to use the gas bridge that we talked about in the beginning, if you just got here, rewind. I went through about 20 minutes of it and all the details, gasbridge.anvilap.com if you're interested in it. I think that's all we got for today, man. Thanks for coming on. Number, I want to say 7 Number 7. You are killing it. You got to be number 1 or number 2. You're like floating in between there on the market cap of coming on the RHMax.
Yeah, we might have to change this channel to DC Max.
DC Max. DC Radio. DC Max Radio coming at you. We got Tanto on the drums. I'll be on the bass. We'll make it work, man. We'll make it work.
That's great. Well, cool, man. Thanks for having me on. I actually do got to go. I was supposed to get off like an hour ago, but just had so much fun talking to you.
Yeah, same here. No, this has been a great conversation. Thanks again for coming on. And everyone, Scivive 5555 and survive. Just like the Robert Downey Jr. meme, survive. All right, we are out.